Alright, so we just did something that kind of bursted our comfort bubble. So just for your information, that should be a weekly event. This should be a normal expression and experience in the church. We should be people who naturally, just by nature, just by who we are, just be encouragers. Now, I was really torn this week. God, how do I preach a message in a series titled Be Happy when we are living in such a time as this? I feel I saw it on Facebook, and I hate this phrase, and I know that's a strong word, but that some people believe that this nation is going to hell. And you know what? Forget the nation as long as the people are not. We live in a chronically negative world, filled with voices of discouragement. We live in a chronically negative world where the voices are chronic. It's like an illness. It's like a pervasive illness that penetrates even to the very soul of the most stable and faithful person. We're living in a time right now where people will often pick up whatever instruments of violence that they can find and cause as much destructiveness as possible. And I have often found that usually it's not the knives or the guns I know that they cause serious problems. But I have noticed and recognized that perhaps the most powerful of all the things that are used to cause destruction are our tongues. By our tongues, people have been led to do things that are disturbing the core. A man who led Nazis started his work with speeches and conversations and with a voice. And it created a people that followed him. We go to work. Our projects aren't good enough. Some of us are living in homes where our spouses are picking us apart. Some of us have in-laws that tell you how to raise your kids. And your kids agree. Hasn't happened yet, thank God. I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago in youth group. In our Outbreak Student Ministries, I was talking about shamers and haters. And there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of people that are doing everything in their power to cause shame, to cause destructiveness, to be a voice that tears people down, that knocks people down, that harms the people around them. I am watching as social media has become the fuel of hate. Has become the fuel that has created the environment for people to jab and to throw and to punch, and we are hurling stones at one another, tearing each other down. Sometimes, many times, it feels like we are in a world that is trying to choke the life right out of us. What do? This morning in my message, I want to talk to you about the courage of encouragement. You see, God is calling you to be an encourager, to be the person that chooses to build up people in the world in a world that is bent on tearing everybody down. It's ravenous. It's ravenous and destructive, the tongue. And we are to be the people who change those trends. You see, believe it or not, standing up here at nearly 37, I'll be 37 at the end of August. Some of you are like, look at that young buck. But I've been in ministry, believe it or not, I've been in ministry 17 years. And I've seen a lot in that 17 years. And here comes a brutal truth, if I may. I really believe that encouragement has lost its significance. Many experience the warm fuzzies of church functions and on Sundays, but that is where it ends. Somewhere along the way, we've gotten lost. And here's how it often goes. I'm just going to be real blunt with you for just a second, okay? Here's how it often goes. We get together, we arrive at church, we sing in varying degrees of passion and accord on how, and then we enjoy a motivational talk or a motivational speech or a condemning one, depending on what kind of church we go to. And then the doors are thrown open and people stream out into their cars, out to their lunches, out to their naps, especially if their pastors are boring, I'm sorry, if you feel like a nap after church, onto their chores, and then here, listen to this. And then onto as well their soul-crushing marital dysfunctions, onto their sex addictions, their alcoholism, their anxiety and depression, and a litany of other unnamed, unearthed, swept under the carpet kind of trauma. An encourager is a one that creates courage in the human heart. When has encouragement become so soft and weak? There's a lot of people out there who are trying to cause damage and harm. James 3:2-10. We know what it talks. It says, "Indeed, we all make many mistakes. For if we could control our tongues, we would be perfect, and could also control ourselves in every other way." That's a significant statement. Perfection can be achieved when you can control this. Listen how it continues to phrase it. It continues on to say, we can make a large horse go wherever we want by means of a small bit in its mouth, and by a small rudder makes a huge ship turn wherever the pilot chooses to go, even through the winds, though the winds are strong. In the same way, the tongue is a small thing that makes a grand speech. But a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. Have we not seen that? Right now. And among all the parts of the body, the tongue is a flame of fire. Its whole world of wickedness corrupting your entire body. It can be set, or it can set your whole life on fire, for it is set on fire by hell itself. James holds no punches. You read through the book of James, it's like, ouch, ouch, ouch. Okay, stop. Okay. I'll get back to you later. And people can tame all kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and fish, but no one can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. Sometimes it praises our Lord and Father, and sometimes it curses those who have been made in the image of God. And so blessing and cursing come pouring out of the same mouth. Surely, my brothers and sisters, this should not be. Period. This should not be. It should not be that I see a person who claims to be a follower of Christ, in one sentence comes to church and elevates God with their worship, but in the next sentence tears down people with their hateful conversations, their gossip, and their betrayals of each other through whatever means necessary. Oh, you got to pray for so-and-so. I'm concerned about such and such. Let me tell you what's going on in their life. Oh, you gotta watch out for this person, or you got to be concerned about this person. See, there is something incredibly spiritual about this decision. God is calling us to step towards broken people. God is telling us to move towards those who are suffering and to speak life into them. Not life as some method of a Dr. Phil or Oprah kind of experience. I'm talking about the life found in Jesus Christ. Jesus, God, and His Spirit is the source of the greatest encouragement. I want you to think about these things. Jesus looked at a woman terrified and helpless before a crowd with murder in its heart. He looked at a woman he shouldn't have even been talking to at a well on a scorching hot day. I mean, number one, he was talking to a Samaritan. Number two, he was spending time with a lady, which was just no. In that culture, in that time period, you just did not do that. He looked at a despicable man clinging to the branches of a tree, like a child, begging for some time with Jesus. And he encouraged every single one of them. He gave them hope that would change everything about their existence. He gave them hope that would change everything about their life. Something that would give them courage to walk confidently in the grace and mercy of God. He knows you best, and He is drawing you towards the best in you. When no one else believed or believes in you, He did, and He still does, and will continue to. When people look at you and say, you will fail, our God in heaven is looking at you saying, you got this. I'm with you. You got this. I'm holding on to you. Do you realize the significance of the statement that Jesus made when He left this earth and said, I am going to the right hand of the Father to intercede for you? That means Jesus, the resurrected one, is at His Father, at God's right hand, and He's thinking of each and every one of you. And intercession is a term used when we think of prayer. That means Jesus Christ Himself is praying for you every single moment.
Amen.
He is transcendent.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy to think, like all of us, all the time, like, what? You know, he could think of my name, and this name, and that name, and this person, that person. I mean, seriously. Like, He knows the best in you, and He wants to pull out the best in you. Someone cares. At its root, encouragement is all about courage. It gives support, it gives confidence, it gives hope. I believe this in my heart of hearts, that encouragement should be more lion-hearted than ever. And many people have completely lost sight of that. Oh, let me encourage you. Let me encourage you. I hope you're okay. I hope you're feeling okay. I hope you're doing okay. No. Let me build confidence and hope. Let me remind you of what this beautiful narrative has to say about God and how much He loves you. May we have the courage and confidence to step out. You see, C.S. Lewis, incredible author. He said, courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point. Courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at its testing point. Courage helps us to rightly and effectively love the broken and depraved in the world. Courage gives us what we need, not to back down when trauma is so awful that we feel like we can't go any farther. That's courage. And God is calling each and every one of us to be the one who speaks that into individuals who are suffering and struggling. Our nation needs a good dose of encouragement, not pop psychology, not another grand speech, not a ridiculous quote online that we share and hashtag that gets us nowhere. I'm talking about leading people back to the Word. I'm talking about leading people back to God. I'm talking about an encouragement that incites in the life of people true hope. And the God of the universe.
Amen.
A life of talking without actions to back it up holds no water. But not all talk. At all. And that's another ship that can't float. I love St. Francis of Assisi's famous sayings, but he said, one, preach the gospel at all times when necessary, use words. However, I can't tell you how many times I've chosen not to speak, only to realize that speaking was the most necessary thing in that moment. You're walking through a checkout line at whatever grocery store you found yourself in. You look at the person and you see pain and suffering on their face. What do? I just my kids are like, Dad, like Grace, every time Grace is like, Dad, you just know somebody everywhere you go. Everywhere. It's just like everywhere. It's like we bump into somebody. We could be all the way out in Franconia. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? What's going on? No, but seriously, like at McDonald's on Sundays and whatever other days we find ourselves there, because unfortunately we find ourselves at McDonald's a lot. That's why I was hoping that some of you would say, Pastor, you're looking awfully skinny today. There was a person that came up to me, and it was kind of quiet there, but there was a person that came up to me, and they're like, man, I was having a terrible day. It was awful. Things were just miserable. And you were walking out of the restaurant, and you held your smallest up in the air and said, say goodbye, Nora. And Nora goes, goodbye. And then I shouted loudly, and there was a lot of people in the room, all right? There was a lot of people at the restaurant, and they all looked at me like, what is wrong with him? I shouted loudly, you guys are amazing, thank you for lunch today. I mean, that costs you nothing. Right? Like, it might embarrass you a little bit, because everybody's like, what's wrong with that guy? Why is he so happy? And so like when I came in later, this young lady, she told me, she's like, you just brightened my day. You changed that day I was miserable. I was cussing at everybody and cursing everybody, and you said that, and I just was like, okay. Because I mean, like I know that like sometimes we can be rude to people at places like that. Like, I worked at McDonald's, and there were times when the people in the back didn't get the sandwich right. There were a couple times the sandwiches were thrown at me. I'm like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. I got to learn, I got kind of good at dodging things, and stuff like that. We've seen the videos that have gone viral of people losing it, I mean, I know some people in here, one of you in here works at Dunkin' Donuts. I know that you've experienced that. My coffee's wrong. What's wrong with you? Okay, hold on. I know right now that coffee is the most important thing you need, okay? Because it's going to help you, all right? Give me a second chance, please. Or, on the other side, you've had too much coffee. You guys know what I'm saying. Like St. Francis of Assisi said, he said that, he famously said, preach the gospel at all times when necessary, use words. But here's the truth, is that you can't preach the gospel in action alone. I mean, you can love people. In action, you can show people the truth. In action, you can speak, or, like when I encouraged those people at McDonald's, like when she came back at me and she's like, thank you so much. And I pushed away the responsibility upon myself, and I said, no. I said, it's Jesus who lives in me that I encouraged that day. I mean, there are some of you in this room that are here merely because of an encouraging word or statement that happened time and time and time again. Philippians 2:1-5, it's in your bulletin if you guys have it. You can look there as well. You can go to your Bible app. I'm reading it in the New Living Translation this morning. This is what Paul is saying. He wrote a letter to the Philippians, and remember, Paul is chained to a prison guard. All right? I mean, this dude is like, he's in prison right now. Now he's in Rome, and things aren't going well. They gave him enough opportunity to write a letter, and I mean, it's not like prison as in probably dungeon-type experience, but can you imagine being chained to somebody? Like, I gotta go to the bathroom, okay? I mean, seriously. Like, it had to be a little bit miserable for Paul. And this is what Paul's writing in chapter 2. It's actually on there too. So, is there any encouragement from belonging to Christ? Any comfort from His love? Any fellowship together in the Spirit? Are your hearts tender and compassionate? Is there any encouragement from belonging to Christ? Any comfort from His love? Any fellowship together in the Spirit? Are your hearts tender and compassionate? Then make me truly happy by agreeing wholeheartedly with each other, loving one another, and working together with one mind and purpose. Verse 3, I love this. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too. You must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. Alright? Make sure you get that right. But he's like, look, have your attitude like Christ. Have your attitude like Jesus. Speak, is there any encouragement? Is there any comfort in this place? Or, are your hearts tender and compassionate? You ever walk into a place and you're like, whoa, it just feels cold in here, and it's not because of the wind, it's just, ooh, someone in this house? You ever been there? Yeah. It can be heart crushing. It can be devastating. It can be hard to be in those kind of places. Now, don't answer me on this one, but have you ever been in a church like that? Now that can be tough. You walk into a church and you're like walking in, you're like, hey guys, and everybody's just staring at you like, okay. I know I'm kind of different. I'm a little short. Hey, I like to go to places and not announce that I'm a pastor, but it's kind of hard because, as Grace tells me all the time, there's no place that I go that I don't know someone. So I'd have to travel a little bit to step into that kind of place. But Paul is trying to tell people, lift others up. Don't think of yourself. Don't be selfish. Don't be focused on you. Don't be intent on getting your own interests. We're living in a culture that is intent on getting, like a famous statement that I see a lot on the internet, and it's kind of a youth culture kind of thing. They say, well, I'm going to do me. I'm going to do me. Everybody else, whatever. Forget everybody else. And I'm using forget instead of the other word. Forget everybody else. Forget everybody else and what they think. Well, I'm just going to look out for me because nobody else is looking out for me. And I'll tell you the truth. To love people like this is going to cost you something. It's going to cost you something to step out there and be brave enough to speak life to people. But in our personal lives and as the church, we have one of the greatest opportunities of our time. This is not a building up of others, as I've said earlier, in isms that crumble and fade when real challenges hit. This isn't a pop psychology that holds no power or insights into what we really face. This is not about a bettering of life plan that will assuredly fall short every single time. This is an opportunity to lead people, encourage with one another as we together hold on to the one who will carry us through all things and somehow give us true and lasting joy throughout it all. Should hear an amen. Amen. I mean, come on, guys. There we go. I was at a church once that, it was in the inner city, and I was at a church once, and someone just shouted, "Pastor, don't back that bus up, keep going." But that pastor got lit because he was excited because he was being encouraged to preach, to share, to speak.
Are you encouraged yet?
I am.
Good.
Pastor, don't back that bus.
Where do the courageous get their courage? Or how do we develop a quality of courage in ourselves and in others? How can we learn to tell our fears to get lost? Some men might naturally be more courageous than others, and even with the most courageous who've etched in their hearts every biblical conviction and have what seem to us undauntable faith, need encouragement, need a voice that speaks into their life, hope, and confidence. Encouragement is a matter of finding others that are in need of help and helping those others with courage by God's grace and strength to continue no matter how difficult or painful the place we're in is. And I know that some of you in this room have experienced serious suffering. And if it wasn't for the encouragement of your friends, if it wasn't for the encouragement of your peers, if it wasn't for the encouragement of the people around you, you probably would have lost it. You'd have given up. You'd have given up. Now, I'm telling you right this morning, though, I'm telling you to take it a step higher, okay? I'm not telling you just to encourage people. I'm telling you to give them courage by telling them the truth of who Jesus is and the truth about how he can carry you through any situation in life or death, no matter what the cost. Encourage others daily. Daily. Come home and tell your wife or your husband how much you care for them, how much you love them. Everyone needs a dose of encouragement. The people that you frequently see in the checkout lines of wherever you find yourself, daily encourage them. Speak hope daily. Speak life daily. Encourage others daily. Make it a habit. Make it a habit. Okay? And you'll find that as you encourage people, what's going to happen? You're going to be encouraged.
Amen.
Because, oh man, that person was miserable, but the more and more and more and more and more I tell them about God's love, the more and more and more and more I lift them up, the more and more and more that I speak life into them, and I speak encouragement in them, and I tell them how much God loves them. The more and more I do that, the more and more bright their life gets, the more and more smiles they have on their face. And you eventually just walk into a place and you see that person, and they're grinning, and you're like, yes, I feel so good about that. Woo. And if you don't get out every day, call someone, write a note, send a letter. You don't know what a card can do. There are some people in this room that were fighting cancer, And it was the cards that this church sent to them that carried them. Encourage others daily. Motivate others daily. Help others daily. Encourage others publicly. I mean, seriously. Like, there are people around. And my wife will say, "You're awesome, Seth," or, "I love you, Seth," or, "You're the greatest man in the world, Seth." And, "I can't imagine my life without you, Seth." No. Sorry, I just gotta learn myself. I know that sometimes you think, like, that person doesn't need any bigger of a head, but, like, it just increases the value of encouragement when you speak it in front of others. When you say it publicly. When you tell people how much you care and love them, how much you care about them and love them when they are in proximity of other people hearing it. Seriously. You got to. It just elevates it. Encourage others daily but encourage others publicly. Okay, here's a valuable one. Encourage others spiritually. We are in a battle. The devil is tearing us down. Every opportunity he gets, build others up in faith. It's something that I know I am desperate for weekly. And if I am, I know you are. Encourage people spiritually. Lead them back to the truth. Lead them back to God. Lead them back to the Word. I constantly, like my kids, man, they come home from school or wherever and they're like, "Oh, I'm just so frustrated. This person's bullying me, or this person's irritating me, or this person's frustrating me." Ugh! You look at them and you're like, "Whoa, I'm seeing the worst parts of me come out in you." And oftentimes I look at my children and I think, how can I encourage my kid right now? And there are many times where I've grabbed their hand and I've said, "Let's take it to the Lord together." Because I know at some point, my best fatherly advice is going to fall short. My dadliness is not going to get far enough. It's not going to get me, it's only going to get me so far. It's only going to get me to a certain spot. I need to lead my children to the Lord. I need to encourage them spiritually. I need to remind them of what the Word says. I need to remind them of who Jesus says they are. Encourage someone who is hurting. Never preach down to somebody. Never. When you preach up. You encourage them. You build them up. You bring confidence into their life. You remind them of the hope of glory. And here's an important one. Encourage yourself in the Lord. Encourage yourself in the Lord. Some of you will be excited because I'm going to go back to the King James Version here for a minute. In 1 Samuel 36, it says, "But David encouraged himself in the Lord." They were bent on stoning this guy. The people around him, they were frustrated with David and who would become King David, and they're like, we're gonna stone him. It's over. It's finished. And David, he encouraged himself in the Lord. And other translations says that he found strength in the Lord. But he reminded himself of his standing. He reminded himself of who God called him to be. He reminded himself of what God said to him. He reminded himself of what the prophets had spoken. How he'd been inspired by the words of those who said, God has a special plan on your life. He encouraged himself in the Lord. Sometimes we need a little pep talk, and there's no one around us that's going to give us a pep talk. I cannot say it enough. Oh, that was my water bottle. I cannot say it enough. This book right here is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It is so precious. I can't thank God enough for preserving it. And I want to encourage all of you this morning with this, okay? This is a thank you card. You guys remember there was a Vietnamese young lady who was coming to our youth group and coming to our church for some time. She went back home. She's coming back for college. And some of you each got individual cards from her. But I'm going to read the card that she sent to me. Okay? And this is what she said. So, Pastor Seth, it's been great to get to know you this year. I can't thank you more for not losing belief in me and encouraging me, and above all, for showing me the true meaning of Christianity and Jesus. I'm sorry, but I'm going to get emotional. I enjoy every single lesson and message. I've learned so much and have connected to so many people I never expected. And thank you for easing my pain, even though it's so much smaller than other people's. And even though I never directly talked about it. And the books too. And here it is. You have a great church. You have a great family. You are a great, great people. Once again, I can't thank you and your family and your church and Outbreak Student Ministries enough, whom I love so much. And then she writes something that I cannot translate. Con kam an cha. And I'm still trying to figure out what she was saying. And then it was signed. Each and every one of you impacted that young lady's life. Each and every one of you had a part of that. I remember when she started coming to the youth group, before she even came to church, I mentioned her by name, and someone, and I said, I want to get her a Vietnamese Bible so she can read it herself. And it wasn't even 4 days later, someone showed up to my house and said, I found one online, here it is, give it to her. Now,
Precious.
I want you guys to think of the value of that. The value of what she took home. The value of what can happen in her household. The value of every word spoken. It was hard for her to go, but it was powerful. The impact. So, a couple questions. It's on your bulletin. What do you need to hear? Man, I messed it up again. What do you need what are you in need to hear? Pan.
It's okay.
What do you need to hear? Just scratch out that in. What do you need to hear from God Himself that would encourage you today? What do you need to hear from God today that would encourage you? What do you need to hear? I would tell you to look to this great book, and you'll probably find a lot of what you need to hear. If you cannot hear Him speaking, if you feel like you are void of His voice, this is the greatest place for you to gain opportunity to tune in. Who is God telling you to speak life into by encouraging them today or this week? And how will you use your personal influence and voice to be an encourager of life and hope in the individuals you cross paths with? Where are you going to go? Who are you going to be around? It could be the school that you work in. It could be the people in your own home. It could be your siblings. Yes, as hard as it is sometimes. Some of you kids need to speak up to your moms and dads more. Some of us need an incredibly important moment where someone says, I want to encourage you today. I want to encourage you today. And I want to encourage all of you today because I feel like I belong to the best church in the world. I'm serious. I couldn't have found a better place. Actually, God couldn't have led me to a better place. And let me take credit for that. I mean, it's just like God working and God orchestrating and God making things happen. I'm telling you guys, I could not be a better place. I am so in love with this place.
Amen.
And And I'm so in love with these people, with you. Thank you. So be encouraged today. And as you're encouraged today, go out. All right? Go out and encourage others. Tip big, love big, go the distance. Go the distance. There is a chronic, discouraging spirit that is running rampant in our culture. Evil little fishes swimming in the opposite direction, fighting against the tide. Father, we thank you for this morning. We thank you, God, for your precious love. God, I pray today that each and every one of us would be encouraged, that each and every one of us would be strengthened, that as we go homes, as we get on our phones, as we check our social media sites, as we check our feeds and find out what other dilemma, what other struggle, what other difficulty, what other thing is happening, as we find ourselves more frustrated with the people that say they love you and are acting foolish, God, that we would begin to be the voice that brings courage, not in ourselves, not a new age hedonistic courage that we can gain from self-pride and self-confidence, but courage that only can be gained by putting our trust in you. Because that kind of courage would fall short, but when we hold on to you, you will carry us through any trouble we face. Thank you for the encouragers in the room, and I pray, God, that you would challenge us to step out of the areas that we've insulated ourselves in, and that we would be able to be better at this. And we would be able to be better at this in a chronically negative world, that we would be positive. We would forever lead people back to the cross. That we would forever lead people back to Jesus. That this thank you card that I read this morning, this Vietnamese girl that said that he showed them who you really were, that we would live for those moments. Amen.